Hey there. Early on in our channel, I had actually done my top 100 movie list, and Sir Tonk was working on his as well. And then his computer died, and he stores everything on his desktop, and we've had multiple conversations about this, and then he lost his whole list, and so it's a whole thing. But the original idea for our channel, obviously our title, Pick Your Pop Culture Poison, was that, I was kind of like the book person, and he did a lot of comics, but then we also like video games and movies, and, we wanted to kind of just touch upon pop culture in general. And clearly, we're focusing a lot on books and comics are books, so, they're really still booktube related. But one of the things, I wanted to do is, on my list, it was just like a quick list of the 100 of my favorite movies. And even like looking at it now, I would probably put them in a different order, but I'm not going to do that. Because any given day I'm going to change my mind on, there'd be things that might make it onto the list, things that would get taken off of the list. For mood, I might put things in a different order, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with this list. Maybe I can revisit it down the line, when I've seen enough more stuff. There may be other things I would add, in the last year, but not enough to redo the list. But what I want to do is kind of go through, and I'm probably going to just do it in like chunks of 10, because I'm not going to do a deep dive of 100 different movies in one video. So I kind of want to do, and again, I'm not necessarily going to go into a ton of detail on every single one of them. Some I'll probably talk about more than others, but one of the things I didn't do is kind of explain why they're on my list. And I did say, one of the things I wanted to highlight, and I said in the summary of the video and at the beginning of the video, these are not what I think the best 100 films of all time are. Like, if you asked me to tell you the best cinematography or the best directing or the best acting, best screenwriting, I don't know that, some of these might make the list, but some of them definitely would not because they're just fun. These are my favorite 100 movies. These are the movies I can rewatch again. There's things on here that are like probably total junk, but I could just watch and watch and watch. I just really enjoy. There are things on here that just for whatever reason I thought were really impactful. They had, at a given moment in time in my life, had a really strong impact on me. So, it's very personal. It's very subjective. So I'm not saying like these are or are not necessarily like the best movies by any means. These are just 100 movies I really like that are probably my favorite 100 movies. But, to give some kind of context and to explanation, because, you might look at them and be like, how did you get from there to there? Kind of talk about what I love about the movies. So I'm going to start with the first, the 91 to 100. So at number 100, I have The Blackcoat's Daughter. This is just a low-budget, sort of indie horror. And what I just really liked about it is the mood. It just had a really good mood. It was creepy, moody. The setting was good. There was enough sort of social commentary. I don't, when it comes to horror, I tend to prefer, not always, but you'll see, I tend to prefer more like psychological horror. Things that I think like make me think rather than, I get more creeped out when I'm thinking about things that are creepy rather than, having monsters and stuff. And I've talked about this before. I know, I mentioned it. Sir Tonk really likes Stephen King, and I like Stephen King just fine. I'm just not really big on supernatural horror. And then I got, somebody was like, oh, you should go read some true crime. Because I don't like supernatural horror, that makes me an idiot and makes me incapable of enjoying horror, but, apparently that's the case for them. I don't like true crime, but I do like sort of like more realistic, social sort of horror. So Blackcoat's Daughter, it does have a little bit of maybe a supernatural element, but it's really just about like a toxic relationship with these girls at school. And, so I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was impactful. It was dark. It was a slow burn. It had some really like creepy moments. And I just thought it was well acted, well put together, and it, it had the right mood. So for 99, I have A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Very similar. It's kind of a heartfelt horror movie. And it is a vampire movie, but it's very different than your like traditional vampire movie. But basically it's this girl, and she's a vampire, and she has this relationship with this kid, and they're friends, and it's an interesting film. It's really well made. Again, a lot of social commentary. Kind of goes with Blackcoat's daughter. This in particular deals a lot with like women. I want to say it's Iranian, and it's dealing a little bit with like, just in general, like attitudes towards women and the way women are treated, and so on. So, that's what I liked about that one. Moving to, I'm going to probably spend more time as we get further on the list. When I get down to like the top 20, I'll have a lot more to say. I mean, because again, these are movies I really enjoyed, but I've seen them, most of them I've seen maybe once or twice, they're just really, I liked them at the moment. The next one I have seen twice, and this is Alien. I mean, it's classic. Aliens is really good. I love Aliens, don't get me wrong. It's not on my list, and that's just because I personally enjoy Alien more, because Alien is like a slow burn, intense, like, people realizing like they're in danger and then feeling trapped, and just how do they deal with this thing that's so big beyond them, and I like that a little more than the sort of just like straight action sci-fi that is Aliens, which again, I enjoy Aliens a lot, and to be honest, Aliens is probably more fun, but I just, as if I had to compare them, if one asked like which one do I like better, I would put Alien, just because I think that like the structure is more my thing. It's kind of tough because I feel like they should both be on here, but we'll just call it Alien/Aliens for 97. 96 is Waxwork, and this is a total trash movie. This movie is absolute nonsense. It's garbage. I know it's garbage. It's funny. It's silly. It's cheesy. It's a super cheesy 80s or early 90s horror movie about a wax museum with all these like historic figures that come to life and all these like literary monsters and so on. I just really enjoyed it because I thought like I love things that are like kind of, I don't want to say dumb, but I mean, you'll see Bill and Ted shows up later on this list, like that are sort of funny and silly, but also like informational. Like I like smart dumb movies, if that makes any sense. And so it was kind of interesting because I just thought the choice of wax figures was very interesting. I think wax museums are super creepy to begin with. And then also there was like a whole thing with like the Marquis de Sade, which I was like, what? Like that just seems so out of place and so random in a movie. And so I just thought it made some interesting choices. And so I enjoyed it a lot. And it was just like a silly movie that I really liked when I was younger. So then moving to 96, this is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. This just came out, I want to say like a year ago, 2 years ago. I loved this movie, and I know a lot of people didn't like it because they found the characters insufferable and awful, and that's kind of the point. They are insufferable and awful. Like, they're terrible people. They're super irritating. And but it was so much fun. Like, this is a movie, like a lot of people try to do sort of like insufferable characters and like a murder mystery horror. And I often feel like the insufferability ends up becoming way more like heavy than the actual like fun or like the sort of social mockery commentary side. This one I just thought did such a good job of balancing that, because yes, they're annoying, but like, people start dying and you're like, oh, who's the killer? And the murder mystery's fun, but it's so ridiculous that it made me laugh. I thought it was exceptionally like intelligent. I mean, I called it, and I was like really satisfied with it, because I thought it was just done well. It really nailed like what it was going for, and to me, that's also something I enjoy. Like, even if the movie isn't necessarily like my thing, I really do enjoy when a movie, I feel like just goes all in for what it's trying to do. I think a lot of movies try too hard to like either play it safe or to reach too broad of an audience, and as a result they just feel like empty or like they're missing things. And so I like when a movie just like picks a lane, stays in it, and is like, you know what, you're either gonna like it or you're not, and we don't care, this is the movie we set out to make. And you could probably see there's like a lot of A24 and indie stuff, and there's a reason I go for those, because I think a lot of those movies do that. So the next one is Clockwork Orange, which is obviously a very disturbing movie, very dark, very twisted. Again, you can see I have a thing for like social commentary. Clockwork Orange obviously is brilliant, some of the most brilliant social commentary there is. Stanley Kubrick's one of the best directors of all time. It's just, everything about it is fantastic. It is a very difficult movie to watch, and obviously, like, it's funny, but in like a very, very dark way. If you don't like if you've never seen Clockwork Orange and you don't like American Psycho, like, don't watch Clockwork Orange, because they're, they have a very similar vibe where it's like super dark and twisted, but also like just really good satire. And so I love that. I mean, I've always loved this movie. This has been one of my favorite movies since I was in high school, which I probably shouldn't have been seeing it in high school, but I did. And really loved it. And I've had a lot of conversations with people who are like, they don't like the ultraviolence, especially in the beginning parts, and I get it, but at the same time, I think it makes it more impactful as the story progresses and as you see, like, the results of sort of what the story is going for. But, you have to be prepared to suffer through some, like, really dark stuff. And I'm very much okay with dark things. Like, I can tolerate a lot. I mean, I don't like when animals get killed, because usually I just feel like it's cheap. Usually when they kill off animals, it's like, hey, look, we made this guy bad because we killed an animal. And it's like, kind of like, you could do that another way. But, I will say a lot of my movies probably have significant trigger warnings. So definitely, like, go to Does the Dog Die? They have a good list. There's some on, IMDb sometimes has some trigger warnings. So if you are sensitive to that stuff, like, I have PTSD, so I get it, but, like, for some reason, like, a lot of things just do not bother me in film. If it's done, again, it needs to be done for a reason. Like, I don't want to watch a rape scene for the sake of a rape scene, but, like, if it has a point, I can deal with it. And so I think Clockwork Orange has a point, and so the stuff doesn't bother me because it's leading to something. Moving into the complete opposite direction, I mean, literally the opposite direction, is Father of the Bride. And this is the Steve Martin remake. This movie is just so cute and so funny. I've seen it 100 times. It's silly. It's just a family-friendly, cutesy movie. I love it. Like, it's just so, it makes you happy. It's just a fun, happy, silly movie. It's probably offensive at this point. I don't know, because I haven't seen it in, like, years at this point. But, I know, like, a lot of times you go back and you watch things that you really liked in, like, the 80s and 90s and stuff. And you're like, oh, wow, this is super offensive. So, keep that in mind that it was made, I think, in, like, the late 80s, early 90s. So, some of the humor may not be funny. I know, like, Martin Short's character is, like, a really obnoxious, like, stereotype of a French person. But it's still pretty funny. And, again, I think it's done in, like, kind of funny, like, good taste. But, I mean, there may be some, like, hinted at, like, kind of gay jokes that are probably inappropriate and ridiculous now. But, again, like, I have to try to just go with what, like, at the time I enjoyed. And so I like it because I have, like, this context of, like, liking it when I was younger. So then moving on to another one that I think is really funny, but also, like, really satirical and way smarter than it had any right to be, is the Lego Movie. And it sounds silly, but, like, honestly, this movie blew me away. I thought it was going to be, like, first of all, I thought it was ridiculous. How is there a movie about Legos? But I was just shocked at how funny it was, how, like, pointed the, like, social commentary and, like, the satire was. The music's hilarious. Everything about it's funny, although I do think Chris Pratt is the voice, maybe, and I don't like Chris Pratt, but honestly, overall, it was hilarious. I love it. Like, I watched it a few times. I like the second one. I like the Lego Batman stuff. The Lego stuff is just really funny. So, again, is it life-changing? Is it, like, Oscar-winning? I don't know. Probably not. I mean, I think this might have gotten nominated for some Oscar stuff, but I just thought it was really fun. And, again, it was way smarter than you would have anticipated. Moving into another, like, complete, like, huge range in comedy here, is Duck Soup. And Duck Soup is a movie, obviously, that's, like, super, super old. And I grew up not liking the Three Stooges. I'd seen just, like, a few clips. I didn't think they were funny. I didn't get it. I was like, I'm not into slapstick. This isn't the kind of humor I like. And so I liked Charlie Chaplin a little bit, but I didn't really like a lot of that old style of humor. And so I went into this thinking I was going to hate it. I was like, there is no way I'm going to like this. This is not funny. Like, I don't like slapstick stuff. And I couldn't get enough of it. I was like, I ended up watching it by myself because Sir Chunk had watched it already on his own. And he didn't really like it that much. And I ended up, like, sitting up in the middle of the night watching it. And I was, like, in tears laughing so hard. And I don't get it. And then I was like, but wait, did you see this scene? And I was making him watch clips of it because I was like, no, how did you not think this was funny? And it is slapstick and it's nonsense, but it was so funny and so well done. And I just absolutely loved it. And I was shocked at how much I loved this movie, but I couldn't get enough. I thought it was super funny. So again, I don't know, maybe it was my mood at the time. I've watched the clips multiple times since, and I still think they're hilarious, especially, and I don't know which of the Marx Brothers it is, but it's like, he's trying to buy, like, a hot dog or something, or, like, ice cream. He's buying something from, like, this vendor, this street vendor, and the whole thing is just absolute nonsense and chaos, and it was just so funny, and it wasn't a thing I thought I would like, but I did. And then the last one in this round is E.T., and, I mean, I don't know what there is to say about E.T. It's amazing. It's, like, classic. There's, like, I mean, it's E.T. Like, everyone loves E.T. Like, I literally don't know anyone who hates this movie. If you hate this movie, I don't understand. The only thing I will say about this movie is it's, like, as I grew up, like, I still watched it, but I don't like watching it as much because it's way sadder as you get older. Like, when I was young, I know, like, I would kind of just, like, skip through the parts that made me sad, but as you kind of get older, you're just like, wow, this is, like, seriously messed up. Like, the stuff with the government, like, taking him, and then he's white and, dying and sick, and he's in this tent, and he's not allowed to see Elliot, and it's just super tragic, and I don't know. I think it's a lot darker than I remembered it, like, when I was, like, in my, like, I think I was in college, or even, like, in my teen years, like, I was just like, I don't think this movie's as cute as I thought it was when I was a kid, but I also am pretty sure E.T.'s the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater, and I could be wrong, because obviously, like, my memory isn't great. I know my parents took me to the drive-in to see stuff, when I was, like, a baby, but, I don't remember it. I remember seeing E.T. in the theater. I remember coming home because we had bought Reese's Pieces, because Reese's Pieces were, like, a thing, for anyone who is old enough to remember. I don't think Reese's Pieces even existed before E.T., or if they did, it was the product placement in E.T. that made them super popular. And I remember getting Reese's Pieces at the movie theater and then coming home and putting them in my dad's desk drawer and then, like, having them, like, throughout the week because I just thought they were so exciting. But I remember seeing this in the theater, and I remember the little E.T. standee, and he had Reese's Pieces in his hand, and, like, yeah, so that was, like, the first cinema-going experience I remember. And so I was, I don't know, probably, I don't know what year it was, maybe 82, so I'm going to say I was, like, 4 or 5. I could be wrong. I could have been 86 for all I know. I don't think it was that long. But, I'm pretty sure it was, like, the early 80s, and yeah, it's 82, so I don't know, whenabouts in 82, but it looks like it was June, so yeah, I was, 4 years old, so I remember that, and that's, like, that was, like, a big moment, and I love movies, and I've always loved, going to the movie theater, and I worked for a cinema and stuff. So, I mean, E.T. is probably like the first moment in my life that I remember just being in awe of cinema. And so, that helps. That helps boost the movie as well. So it probably should be higher. But, so yeah, that's 91 to 100. Like I said, as I get further down, they're movies I've seen more and more. So I'll probably have a lot more to say about those. But I wanted to give some context, explain them. Again, my taste may not be your taste. That's totally fine. You're allowed opinions. As am I. And you might be like, oh, I hated, bodies. And, that's fine. But that's why I liked it, because I liked what it was saying. And I thought it was funny. And I thought the structure of it and the ending was good. So if you didn't like it, maybe you didn't like that. You don't like that kind of movie. And I do. And so that's that. So I'm going to try to do this probably, if not weekly, every couple of weeks, just so I can get these, get these kind of out there and have them close enough together to be interesting, but also not like so close that it's like too much to kind of follow along with. So, and yeah, check out these movies. They're really good. So, I will, I'll see you around. I'll be back in a bit with 90 to 81. And you can look through my quick list with no explanation if you want, or you can wait. All right. See you around. Bye.